Okay, so 2020, it has been one of the most difficult years. I think everybody will have a story that they remember about lockdown. Some people have had great experiences. My experience, on the other hand, was rough, to say the least. But I think something that really challenged me was just the level of dissatisfaction that came up when my life came to a standstill. I just realized that when everything had settled down and it was quiet and there were no more distractions or things to fill up on, I realized that I was so dissatisfied deeply in my soul, deeply in my spirit. Everything that I thought that I was just crumbled and fell away. And honestly, this carried on for a while, maybe weeks at a time, maybe months even. And I realized that I didn't know who I was anymore. My relationship with God took a really big knock. And I just started questioning why I was even created. And then things got harder. It's like the volume just went up. It didn't get better for a long time. And I feel like Jesus used that to remind me of a really deep truth that he was slowly also bringing into the church about dissatisfaction and what the root is, what the root problem is when the fruit of your life, when the outcome of your life is being dissatisfied. What is that an indication of? And I realized that the root of what causes dissatisfaction is trying to grab at your life, trying to gain life by taking it for yourself. And we're taught by Jesus that the only way to gain life is to lose it. We're called to lay down our lives, to humble ourselves, to consider others better than ourselves, to die. We're constantly called to die as Christians. And this makes no sense in a worldly context at all. The world doesn't understand it. It doesn't quantify, it doesn't add up. But I was taught by Jesus through this experience to lay myself down, to completely die to my own desires, to my own expectations, to who I thought I should be, what I should be doing, who I should be friends with, where I should be at this point in my life, what I should look like, what I should sound like. There's just so many voices in the world constantly demanding things from us, constantly demanding us to take part in this, have a voice in that, have a say in this, be this kind of person. If you look this way, you should be this way. If you sound this way, you should be this way. And it's Satan wants to bring divide. And the only thing that we're all unified under as believers is death and resurrection through Christ. And there's a scripture in Colossians that I really love, that I feel like sums it up really beautifully. It's Colossians 3, verse 1 to 3. And it says, "If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God." And I think where it says, and then verse 4, it says, "When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory." That's verse 4. So God is saying that what we think is our life, what we think is our purpose and our calling, because we have this drive as human beings to have a purpose, to have a reason to live. And you'll find at some point in your life that nothing will ever fulfill that. No cause, no person, no self-realization. You can go as deeply into yourself as you possibly can. There's you'll find nothing. There's complete emptiness without God. We're finite beings. We were not created in a vacuum. God is eternal. He is the one who was and is and will be, and he is always the same, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We are finite. We're not God. We're not God. And we find our fulfillment in him when we lay ourselves down, lay down our desires. And there's such a sweet, rich reward at the end of that. It makes no sense, can't explain it, you have to experience it. When you give up your desires, when you open your hands to Jesus and say, Lord, I'm yours, take me, do what you will with me. I don't demand anything. I humble myself, I love people, I lay myself down. He fills you so richly with joy and with peace and with purpose and with victory, and he takes you by the hand and leads you just to complete fulfillment in him, and it just gets more and more beautiful. Again, it makes no sense, but this is what he does. This is the God we serve. He's magnificent and eternal and beautiful and magnanimous and gracious and merciful. There's so many things about him that also are just eternal and endless. And I was driving yesterday I can't even remember, it was a random, I was fetching something, and it was one of those moments where I was like, Lord, what am I doing again? Why did I make this decision? And I remember having a picture of a wedding. Friends of mine are getting married today. I'm just really happy for them. And we're going to get dressed, and it's going to be a Zoom wedding, which is going to be interesting. But I had a picture of a church and a bride waiting to walk down the aisle towards her groom. And all of a sudden I realized that the groom is waiting at the altar. And I thought, why haven't we made the connection that the groom waits for the bride at the altar? She walks willingly towards, metaphorically, her death. She dies to herself to be unified to this person for the rest of her life. She commits to loving him through everything. She commits to laying herself down so that they can be one. And I thought, wow, Lord, that's exactly the picture you have for us. We walk willingly as your bride to the altar. We meet you when we die to ourselves, when we surrender our lives, and we're unified with you forever. And that's the only time we feel fulfilled, we feel joyful, we feel completely full in God. And Jesus is enough. If you have lack, if you have financial lack, relational lack within yourself, insecurity, shame, anything and everything, Jesus fills you up. So I just want to encourage everybody, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling weary, if you're feeling defeated, if you're feeling far from God, surrender, 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 surrender.